All right, so let's get started. Hopefully you've received the email with the instructions on how to make a copy of my Google UTM sheet. Now before we jump right into the Google UTM sheet, I want to spend roughly 4 or 5 minutes here reviewing some of the basics around UTMs, the do's, the don'ts, some of the things I've picked up over the years that have helped me be able to identify really good performing campaigns off the bat, and maybe campaigns that were not performing as well, all by using UTMs, of having that insight and being able to forecast what specifically is going on. So let's walk through specifically UTMs and how you can use them wisely. So really quickly, just a reminder, UTM stands for Urchin Tracking Parameters. If you didn't see the video before this page, I mean, essentially Google back in the day, they bought a company called Urchin. They had an analytics tool that analyzed web files, and if you haven't seen my video yet where we have the too much information to know, we have that one out there around a little bit of the history around Urchin. UTM, what is their purpose? So UTMs, so it's UTM, but UTMs is where you'll hear majority of the marketers levitate towards, because they're using multiples. They can be used, a few different ones in emails, 2 or 3 different ones in press releases, and even some in your ad campaigns. So UTMs, they're basically general pieces of data that you append to your URLs to be able to help you identify things when you launch campaigns, like which channels is the traffic coming from first and foremost. What is the content that has been interacted with? Did they interact with the video on social, or was it a still image? Or maybe it's even a live stream feed. What are the best display ads or creative that are driving traffic and conversions? And what are the best paid keywords if you're currently using Google search ads? Google does a lot of things with auto tagging that if you're using a marketing automation platform and a CRM, it's best not to use auto tagging. What auto tagging does is it basically takes all the UTM data in Google AdWords and it passes it along into Google Analytics, but they encrypt it through something called a GCL ID, Google Click ID. Really don't need to know what that is, honestly, but it's good to know. And but that data does not get passed over to your marketing automation platform. And so what we want to do is we want to really take a look at the 5 standard parameters and how to use those. And Google obviously has a tool as well. I took a quick screenshot of it here that they've developed, but we've made our Google Sheet just a little bit easier to not only help you identify the best channels, a few customizations, but also it's a good legend, if you will, to have everyone adopt, keep track, because one of the first things that we see that people mess up with UTMs, there's no uniformity and there's no alignment within companies. So let's look at the 5 parameters and we'll walk through how we can have alignment. So the 5 standard parameters for UTMs, the first thing you need to have is a destination URL. So where are you sending the UTM? Where is the UTM data being sent to? And so the campaign is the very first thing that we identify. So this should always be specific to a campaign you're running. So if you're having a product launch, if you're having a service, or if you're having, maybe it's a live stream campaigns, it's always good to have them labeled as a very specific campaign and to keep that as that campaign name moving forward. So for this case, you can see inbound_marketing. So anything ad-wise or campaign-wise that we would want to send to our solutions for inbound marketing, I would always tag that with the campaign inbound marketing. So that way, if I look through our analytics and within our marketing automation platform and our CRM, I could quickly be able to sort by campaign name. The next is the source, and so this is the individual site, so within that channel. So we think of these as channels. So this is where marketing dollars are spent that you need to be able to show attribution on. And so the individual site within that channel. So when I talk about channel or that individual site, so instead of saying social, I would have that be, the source would be Facebook, or it would be Twitter, or it would be Reddit if I were advertising on Reddit. And so any place that you are spending marketing dollars in specific channels is where we like to have the source. The UTM Medium, this is where I like to think of this as the action or the content specific in how they interacted with your ads. And we'll look at some selections that we have. UTM Term, so this is critical if you're running a lot of Google AdWords to make sure you include this. This will tell you which keyword is actually bringing the traffic and or conversion. And then UTM underscore content. And so the content, this is always an optional field. Term and content are always going to be optional. The campaign source and medium are always required. So this optional field is really good if you have multiple links. For example, in your email, if you have a link at the top and the footer and a button, you can be able to differentiate the locations, and so you can identify pretty quickly with the outbound or email campaign which placement of the links is best. There's a lot of different things we can do. So we just have a quick example of one that we've created, and let's actually go ahead now that we've spent a little bit of time just refreshing what UTMs are. Let's hop over into the UTM sheet that you've created in Google Drive now. Okay, so if you have not created your copy of the tagging sheet, go back and check your email, because there will be some instructions on how to make a copy and save it to your own folder within Google Drive. So we've tried to make this really, really easy, and I want to walk through one really quick so you can see how to do this for yourself. And then I'll show you how you can edit these in case they maybe do not fit specifically what your business does. So first and foremost, the first thing you need to grab is the URL. So if you're going to be sending traffic to a specific URL, go ahead and go out to your website and grab the URL for your campaign. So I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, you know what? We offer an analytics self-audit here where I walk through some of the self-audit checklists. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy this, and I'm going to come up and I'm going to paste this directly into my next open space. Okay. Once I paste this into the space, you can see my destination URL is now saved. My campaign name for this, so this is a specific offer. So I'm going to come back really quick. So this is my Google Analytics dashboard. And so there's a Google Analytics audit. So that is the name of this campaign. So I'm going to type in analytics underscore audit. So any paid campaign, social posts moving forward, if I'm going to send them to this page, everyone will now know that this is an analytics audit. All the required fields we've marked along the top, and I've actually removed the UTM name here so you can easily be able to see a little bit better what specifically these are speaking about. So the next is the traffic source, and so let's say, for example, that I'm going to be posting on Facebook. Okay. So this is a drop down. We've created pick selectors here to be able to, if you remember what we said when we first started, to create that alignment and that uniformity across the entire company. My mediums, these are all mediums that we as a company have agreed upon. So you can see CPCs, cost per click, cost per impression, CPM, cost per display. If it's a content ad, so if we have done a media purchase specifically, and this is what we would call a content ad. People may post this as something different. A few others, organic posted, is if we're posting social. So if this is going to be organic posted, that's why I'd select. Now I'm not running Google, so my traffic source is not Google. It's not a keyword search term. But if it was at this point, you can see up above, there's a drop down. So over at this point, this is not required. So you can either select keyword, or if you want to use this as a placeholder for something else, feel free to. But best practice would be, if you're not using keyword, then leave it blank. Now add content is not required, but say for example we had two different variations of the video. We wanted to see which one converted better. So let's say this would be video 01, and I'm going to click down. You see the sheet goes ahead and it goes through and it thinks about what it's going to do. So all of a sudden now I have my UTM link. One other thing that is also really important is to have over here into the notes. Now Google has they've removed their Google minification, which used to be part of this tool. We've left this in because removing it, we have other older minified URLs. So if you do want to hook up a URL minification, you can be able to copy and paste if you want to put a shortened URL. So if I were, for example, going to run a Twitter promoted post with a shortened URL, I would use bit.ly or some sort of minifier and then put my minified URL here. The last point here is the notes. So this is a really good place if you have multiple people generating links for your campaigns to put the notes here. Okay. So now that we have our link, and I've already clicked on the first link, we're going to go ahead and test this. Now keep in mind, I have our analytics set up to ignore my IP address, so I've set that up to be able to go back and look at some of the URLs we've clicked on recently. And so I went ahead and copy and paste this in the URL. First and foremost, do a quick QA, make sure the site loads up. It's exactly where I expect it to be. Then I just make sure that my UTMs are showing up here. And so basically, you can see how this is broken down. It still has the same URL. It just appends all this nice little code. So how does this look in Google Analytics? So within Google Analytics, we'll go ahead and log in, and we're going to go to the home. And once you're logged into your analytics, underneath real time, so this is a test site that we have set up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, let's check out the overview. So right now there are 5 users on the site, and you can see all the pages that have come in. So from here I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, we would like to see our traffic sources. So traffic sources, active users, let's go ahead and look for the last 30 minutes because we've tested this a few times. So you can see here when we ran our Google test, Google cost per click, now we have our source and our medium. So now we know specifically, and I like to check the content as well. So I'll come over here and just make sure that here is my inbound marketing that we ran the tests before. You can always come over and click on the content, and then that specific content will show you if the medium and source was clicked on. So as I turned off my IP tracking for this quick test, I can tell that yes, it is in fact capturing my medium and source. So that is how simple it is to generate your UTMs using the Google Sheet. So I'm going to walk you through how to append or add additional selectors really quick, and then I'm going to show you how to create a quick, what I like to call sanity report, to make sure everything that you're doing with your UTMs as you launch campaigns, that you at least have this ability to build in one widget of a dashboard to give you the forecast and insight if all of the UTMs and all of the content that you're using around your campaign, if it's delivering the right data so you can make those decisions or not. Also, if you have never created a Google Analytics dashboard, it'd be great to have you join me on that one as well. As you can see, we do have a analytics dashboard where I actually go through and we walk through step by step how to build a detailed dashboard that's linked to conversions and or events. So let's come back to the tagging sheet. So now that we know the basics of UTMs, so say for example hey John, this is great, but we have 30 different traffic sources. It's pretty easy. All you have to do is hold down your left click, or on a Mac, control click. Okay. Then you're going to come down to, the screen recording software here. Don't you love when that happens? It's called data validation. So I'll pull this up. It's slightly out of, it's underneath conditional formatting, called data validation. Okay. And so you'll see the list of items. All you have to do is put another comma here, and I'm going to put Joe's website. Say maybe Joe has a great website. I'm going to be selecting from and advertising with Joe. So this is only going to make it available on this specific drop down. If I wanted to make it for all of these, all you'd have to do is highlight all of these, right click or control click, once again data validation, and then Joe's website, hit save, and now all of these will now have Joe's website. The same for the medium as well, and if you decide you as a team would like to standardize your ad content types, feel free to do that as well. Okay. If you ever get lost, I have created a video. It's a little bit older video we walk through some very specifics on how to use the sheet. And here's a few quick refreshers here on this front page. And you find this down at the bottom. There's an instructions, and then there's a template tab, or I have it labeled as duplicate. So that way, if you say, hey, you know what, marketing is going to go ahead and use this sheet, you can click on that drop down and you can hit duplicate. You can create a different sheet. So if marketing wants to use this one, and maybe the PR press release is going to be using a different template. So you can see this connects into the Google tool to think about generating the UTMs. So let's go over really quickly and walk through how I would build a quick sanity dashboard. So say, for example, I would like to track all traffic coming to this specific page. Okay. So I'm going to grab this page URL. I'm going to come over to my analytics. Underneath customization, I'm going to click dashboards, and I'm going to go ahead and click create. I'm going to go ahead and start with a blank canvas, and I'm going to call this my UTMs for inbound operations. And we're going to create this dashboard. So the very first thing that I want to be able to pull up is I'm going to pull up a table. Okay, and I would like to be able to pull in the source and medium, and I would like to pull in users, and then also maybe new users that are coming to the site. So now I'm going to be pulling in my UTM source and medium, how many users and how many new users. Okay, but now I would like to only show with the page, whoops, excuse me, not exit page. I meant to click on landing page. If I'm sending my content here, I'm going to choose landing page. And this is where you can start with containing. So if you have multiple, I'm going to say begins with. I'm going to go ahead and then I'm going to hit save. So basically I'm telling the website, my analytics, to listen for my website for any landing page that begins with. Now, depending upon how your analytics is set up, you may have to put the entire URL, or you can see with this one there is no data for the view, so our site is set up to not include our main URL. All right, that's one of the benefits of recording these is we have internet glitches. So I've added in one of the pages that we have sent traffic to, and I'm going to say let's only show the landing page containing, so I have in here my landing page that we're running traffic to. I'm going to show source, medium, users, and new users. Now, if you have conversion goals set up, this would be a great place to be able to bring in your goals. If you have not set up goals before in your analytics, you can see that we have different goals in here. I would highly suggest checking out how to build your own dashboard. I walk through how to set up those goals and also identify behavior goals as well. So now that we have this widget set up, I call this my sanity dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So you can see here, since I know that this is the landing page, I would call my report whatever the landing page would be, and I need more than just one, so I can see how many users, how many new users by their source and medium are coming to the site. But I would like to have a 50-50 view to where I can have a little bit bigger, so I'm going to add another widget, and this time I would like to be able to see the bounce rate. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this little edit button. I'm just going to clone this widget because I already have my landing page identified. And now I'm going to come back in, and I'm still going to keep my source and medium here, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my average. Should be able to have an average time on page or average session duration. So there's two schools of thought here. So I'll go ahead and do average session duration, and we'll do the average time on page. And if you have a really slow converting page, you can always even bring up your average load time of the page as well by channel. That's another good insight that you can have here as well. So this is going to show us specifically the average session duration, what the average page load time is. And so once again, if this is looking off, it's something you may want to check, because the average page load time is going to be depending upon a few different things, how much traffic you have on the site. So I usually like to look at the average session duration and the average time on page, one or the other. Average time. So here we go. Average time on page. So between the session duration, that's going to have, for if they come to the website and you have a navigation that they can kind of go around and stay on the page as long as they want, and we're also going to pull up the average time specifically on that page. So you can see here that this is a newer campaign launch, 15 seconds for our sessions, but our average time on page for Google is 2 minutes and 41 seconds. And so we can tell that this is converting better video views on Google. Your average session duration, or this is a metric that is really good to start looking at first, but if you have a single dedicated landing page, this can really skew the numbers. And so where this specific landing page does not have a navigation, I would not expect my session duration to be that long. So I'm going to have my average time on page be my secondary. So now I have a quick sanity check to see where majority of the users are coming from, and I can see which source and medium is driving the best quality of traffic. So one last thing as we come to wrap up. So I encourage you to create some sort of uniformity within your company. Use the notes. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. But one of the things as you get excited to start creating UTMs that you do not ever want to do. As I've shared and taught classes on how to create UTMs and some of the additional things that you can do, I have clients that will then go back out and say, hey, this is great. We need to add a UTM here, a UTM here, a UTM here. Hey, let's also have a UTM maybe up here as well. Now, the rule for UTMs are you only generate and use these UTM links when you're pointing back to your own content and or website. And so you will never want to place links with UTMs within your own Google Analytics domain. The reason being is if I were to add UTMs around each of these and click on engage, what happens at that point is it passes a UTM up here in the top browser, and from that point, guess what it does? It totally blocks me from being able to track a session all the way through. So when someone clicks on that link, it actually resets that session because a UTM has passed, a new session, a new campaign. All those type of things will just really mess up your analytics. So if you would like to track button clicks on your page, that would best be fit for something called Google Events using Google Analytics and Tag Manager. That's for another discussion. So a quick recap: use UTMs. You should have the force, or quote unquote the UTM power, and feel free to start tagging and share. Feel free to share this video with any of your colleagues or any of your coworkers that maybe need a refresh of UTMs. And if you ever have any questions, always feel free to reach out, and I'd love to see how you're using UTMs and how they're helping you make smarter, better decisions today. All right, that's it for UTMs team. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope that you found this a little bit enlightening. And if there's anything that you think we could add to this quick overview, also feel free to reach out. I'm open to hearing how we could help better. Have a great day.